Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview episode of What's New in Cloud FinOps with myself, Franck Contrepois, my good friend
Stephen Old. Hi, Frank.
Here we go. Hello. And today we have someone who is going to talk to us about a topic I had no clue about. And I still don't, by the way. That's why we have that interview. And it's going to be with Nic Guerra, who is going to help us understand what is cost accounting. But let's start, Nic. Introduce yourself.
Well, hello, Frank. Hello, Stephen. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Nicolas, Nic for everyone. I'm a converted cost accountant into the world of FinOps. Started here about 6 years ago. I'm currently a senior analyst at a SaaS company. And I think I found my place in the world. It's like a perfect in-between between the finance world and the technical world, which I'm really enjoying.
Amazing. So just to start from what is cost accounting and how is it different from accounting? What do we usually call accounting?
So accounting, for when someone thinks about accounting, they will be thinking of the financial statements, maybe taxation, everything that is for
P&Ls.
CFO, P&Ls, yeah. Cost accounting, and that, by the way, an accounting, traditional accounting is very regulated. You have all your norms and standards to comply with. Cost accounting was something that was born more in the manufacturing space, and it was meant to support the management of the business by truly understanding what are their costs of the business, how much does it cost to manufacture a product, and what decisions you can make once you understand the cost of that product, how the cost behaves, how does it change. It's a decision-making tool that is not regulated, so it differs. There's no one way of doing cost accounting. It's a tool to help take informed decisions or make informed decisions.
Okay, so it's going to be, my understanding is going to be related, or it's going to help, for example, make decisions about margin. It's going to help make decisions about what do you do when costs increase. So is it related to procurement?
Not that I can think of. It's more.
I guess it supports procurement, right? If you see an area that's a concerningly high cost for a product, etc., you might flag it. But
okay, yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. If we backtrack and we go to the definition of cost from cost accounting, you will, and this is something I love to say, you will, or we will understand cost as the minimum viable spend to produce a service or a product of a given quality. So yeah, procurement, you will need to, you can't just cut costs for the sake of it if you are putting quality in jeopardy. I mean, you could, but then you will have a lot of issues with your customers. So yes, from a procurement point of view, you might look for some cost efficiencies or cost savings, provided that you are still delivering on the same quality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I guess it helps make decisions about the profitability of product lines and stuff like that, which makes a lot of sense moving into the cloud world, right? Trying to get to the unit economics place and understanding what belongs to what. So have you always done this in the cloud and SaaS space, or what were you doing before you transitioned into this, and how was that transition, if so?
So, well, as you can imagine, there was a bit of a learning curve coming from the finance world. So yeah, no, I came into FinOps just like everyone does, looking for cost savings. So of course, yes, I have that idea of how to optimize spend and what spend should be. Then I started building my architectural knowledge or even technology knowledge. And I would say only recently, maybe in the past year or so, I started to dive a bit deeper into merging these two worlds of cost accounting and FinOps. So at the moment, I'm doing a piece of work on understanding cost drivers of our SaaS platform, what's driving our infrastructure, how the costs behave, why my increase in volume doesn't translate immediately into a cost increase of the same rate or pace. So yeah, I'm only now starting to merge or combine these two fields.
And did you do cost accounting in manufacturing or similar, or have you always done? Yeah. So for you, apart from like needing to understand some of the technology names, does it translate well, or are you having to adapt cost accounting to make it work in the FinOps space?
Does it translate well? Yes. I mean, from a theoretical point of view, it sounds doable and simple. Yeah. The reality is, and what I'm starting to find out is the volume of information and the number of variables that you have here. It means that you will have to do some compromises. You will never get to a standard cost which says, I don't know, serving one API will always cost me or should cost me exactly this. You will be or have to be a bit more flexible in your understanding of what the cost should be.
But in the manufacturing space, you can do that almost. You can say, I know that to make one of these costs.
Yes, right. The variables are more controllable and in much small quantity. And of course, you will have your variances. You'll never have an exact cost all the time, but you know what you are striving for. And it's much more easier among a handful of materials, raw materials, to say, yeah, this is where I went south and this is where I spent more than I should have.
That's interesting. At the same time, yes, because so let's go out to asking questions. What are the biggest difficulties you see in applying this cost accounting in the cloud? You say the quantities of variables, the fact that sometimes you have one variable or the usage variable that is supposedly going up, or the business variables is going up, but not the cloud cost. What are those strange behaviors that you see, or do you have any advice for? Because as FinOps people, we are told, you need to do unit economics, you need cost allocation, but all these things are connected to what you're talking about. If I cannot, at the starting point, allocate effectively a cost, or not allocate, but understand my cost, then it almost, I would not say invalidate, but complicates, adds a layer of complication to everything else. That's how I see it. So let's go in the positive. What would you recommend people to do related to cost to make sure that they get some sensible values or sensible information in the cloud?
The first thing that I will do, if you really want to leverage unit economic especially for forecasting, is at the very least understand the behavior of your cost. So we are led to believe that we live in the cloud and costs are perfectly variable in the cloud because you pay for what you use. It's not the case. The easiest example, I mean, the moment you purchase reservations, you are moving away from a variable cost. So really understanding how your cost behaves. So is it variable? Is it fixed? Is it step cost? That will help you forecast or understand, well, if I have a volume of X, my cost is going to change Y. And then you can combine that with the elasticity, because yes, maybe it is variable and you see that when volume goes up, the cost goes up, but to what extent? Is it 1-to-1? Is it a quarter of the cost that goes up? So understanding if you are in a step cost, so you have a capacity that is provisioned, and it is not until you reach a certain point, the tipping point in your volume, that you will need to scale up, and then you will stay there for a while. So that's your step. So what's that tipping point? Are you getting close to it? Are you about to onboard a client that will take you to that tipping point? And then how does that affect the profitability of the client? So to me, behavior of the cost and elasticity is probably the first step. And if I want to keep talking, I would say, well, from there, try to really work with your engineers and try to see if you can go back to the design of the system or the infrastructure and say, how much should I be spending for a given volume? So someone at some point, one will hope, will say, yeah, for us to deliver this service, we need a, I don't know, M5 large machine. Why? Why do we need that amount of CPU and RAM? And how does that relate to the volume? If you understand that, then you can start seeing how efficient you are in your scaling and avoid situations where you see a spike on volume the day one and a drop in the unit economic the day after, just because, well, you are not scaling or scaling incorrectly. Does that make sense?
Does.
Bit of a kind of a sideway question. In cost accounting, do you ever include the cost of people?
Yes, one of the main components. So typically you will have your raw materials, cost of people, and then everything that is an overhead.
So are you bringing that into your FinOps practice?
Not at the moment, no. That's something that I adapt. It's more focused on the raw material of the IT.
And it's funny because just like half an hour ago, I was in another conversation and we were talking about, lots of people, especially in FinOps, are just considering cost, the cloud cost, and they're completely ignoring the fully loaded cost. And usually, and for me, it reminds me of often a story, which was, developers cost quite a lot. So their hourly cost is huge. And if you present them with just things to do, and they're going to have to go, as we say with Mel when she was on the thing, you get an Excel with 25 things, and all of them together are do not sum up to whatever you're going to save now, or your time wasted. It's not going to work. And there is this thing in FinOps that we just ignore that bit. It is we just focus on, as you say, the raw material. I like it.
I mean, just because we are not doing it at the moment doesn't mean that we shouldn't or we won't.
Yes.
FinOps Plus, that's what we are calling it now, right?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. So obviously I work with organizations across the maturity spectrum, and I see more and more bringing it in, but not kind of bringing it in really because it's set anywhere in the FinOps framework or anything, but because actually to understand the cost of an opportunity and therefore the priority it should have, etc., we're having to bring in the developer time and the cost, like you say, Frank. But it's just an interesting one where, like, if you're trying to understand the value you're getting from cloud, it's always seemed odd to me that the people costs aren't included in that, because they are part of your cost that drives your value. And I was wondering whether cost accounting, therefore, was a way of bringing, with a known methodology of bringing that in. I know it's in things like TBM already, but it does sound, Nick, that like that is part of the kind of standard world of how you'd aim to do cost accounting, and therefore is in your future plans.
Well, you just raised a great point. You said, well, cost of opportunity. Cost of opportunity, or understanding and assessing ROIs and comparing one thing with the other. AI is happening, and that affects cost of people, because you might be needing less human resources. So if you want to truly assess the cost of an initiative that is heavy on AI, replacing people or accelerating development, then surely you will need to factor the human cost in there as well.
100% agree.
Yeah, and they are starting to do it, because there is this aspect of AI is scary for people losing their jobs. All of a sudden, they want it to be included. It's my cost, which I wanted to hide before. Now I don't want to bring it back, or maybe not. But yeah, I wanted to go to another side, which was from your definition at the beginning of cost, which I found extremely interesting, which is the SLA bit, or the quality, the output quality that you have. And I think we don't have enough of that. And we don't have enough. We don't know. We just want our product to run and to be there, and being able to, if you put it in the cloud, to scale ad infinite because our market is the world. But I think, how do you use, so can you, first of all, can you repeat the definition? Because you say, and second thing is, can you talk more about that aspect, which is the quality, the expected quality?
Yeah, so back to what I remember from uni, cost should be the minimum viable spend for you to produce a product or a service of the quality that you offer or that you strive to deliver. So that means a few things. That means if you are being inefficient, that's not part of your cost. If you are consuming more material or more time to produce something, that's not cost. But equally, it's something that changes over time. If you decide to improve your quality, you have more cost and you accept that. And equally, you might decide on compromising on quality, and then that's your new cost. So all that takes you to what we define as a standard cost, right? That's your should be cost. And I think that's something that we are missing at the moment in the FinOps space, or at least I'm not aware of. And I see it as the next step or the next level from unit economics. When I started thinking and trying to bring this into FinOps was because I was seeing some limitations with the unit economics, as I was saying before. I found some fun examples where my volume goes up, and then the day after my unit economics goes down, just because there is no scaling in the middle. So a change in volume doesn't translate into, or the volume affects my unit economics, which shouldn't happen. That tells me that something is happening, or is happening at the technological level.
I guess it drives a risk, right? Because if you see that your volume has gone up, your prices remain the same, like you say, okay, I can see there's no scaling there. That creates a potential performance risk in the fact that, what does that mean? Were clients still getting the performance they needed in that time? And if they were, then maybe that brings a question around opportunity or whatever. Also says, maybe, well, this means we actually scaled right. If this is something that couldn't scale out, but that worked, then great. But it also could demonstrate that risk. And you're entirely right. I don't really feel I've very rarely had conversations of this type. And once you've said it, it's obvious, right? but very rarely had those kind of conversations in practice.
I think it's something, and I do it continuously, but others are doing it, is we really work for abstract things quite a lot, and we are high level in FinOps, and so we end up simplifying or potentially making it logical. And I'm thinking about exactly what you say is, yes, if you have unit economics, you should know how much, if a customer comes in, or if you have 10 new customers, how much that's going to cost. But as you say, but the load might be, so first there is the load that, as you say correctly, it's, hey, there is a new server, and that's going to be able to manage 15 customers. So we're going to have that change. And then there is the lag of going down. And so while we say that, yeah, we have hourly data, absolutely brilliant, but we might not be actively dropping that cost immediately as soon as, the 15th customer left or the 10th customer left. I think that's, but how is, so in ITIL ages ago, we used to have this concept of SLA, because that was the initial bit where internal IT department had to sell to other department in the company. And one of the things you needed to put was to have an SLA. It's, hey, we're going to give you an email with that amount of megabytes at the time, can tell you how old that was, and all of this. Now, SLA in the cloud seems to be, it's not as pushed. And I think it starts, interesting. I think it starts from the fact that, for example, if you look at the SLAs from AWS, okay, for the cloud vendors, they are only uptime. They have no others than uptime. That's the only thing they have. So there are no SLA on effectively the kind of speed of delivery. They are doing, usually they are absolutely smashing it, let's be clear, okay?
I thought they had some on ticket response time.
Possibly on ticket. What I'm saying is, if you're on Kafka or if you're on SQS, how long it's gonna? Can you guarantee me that my message is gonna get there into that amount of milliseconds? Whatever the thing is, it's not contracted. It is said eventually in the documentation, and as they're doing an amazing job, you can expect it. But so I'm just trying to understand it. How would you define what I call SLAs? into cloud based on your experience in retail or others?
Something I never thought of.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be honest, never thought of that before. But again, I think, as Stephen was saying a moment ago, there is some simplification that we need to do in the cloud space. You can't really track every single pricing or every single element of the pricing. So you are talking of SLA as maybe latency. You could say the SQS example, but yeah, maybe it's not that. Maybe you will need to simplify. Say, well, we expect to handle X amount of messages in a day. Something I need to explore, to be honest. But yeah. It will require some simplification for sure.
And I was not, and that's me, unfortunately, going into the example of AWS SLA now, but I was talking about, okay, I am in FinOps, I for a company, I'm a FinOps practitioner, and I want to, I want to start, even for internal purposes, to put some SLAs into the value. So include that into the value of the service we deliver through IT. So for example, SLA exists in extremely clear ways for websites, because you know that if a page takes more than half a second to load, you're going to lose people. And so there is a clear diagram of quality and value, which is half a second, and you work towards that. I don't remember if it's half a second, by the way. So my question was there. I say, are there others that you've seen or that yet you might be easy to help? And no, nothing easy. Okay, I'm stopping. No. I'm stopping. I'm going all over the place. I see you, both of you, because I see on the camera making strange faces.
I'm having connection issues. My face is just trying to make out what's being said. It's not your fault. The bits I heard sound wonderful.
Yeah, I'm talking almost on my own, and Nic is doing strange faces. I said, "No, it doesn't work. Just stop, Frank. Stop."
No. I think it's a valid point. I mean, we need to define SLAs. You call it SLAs. I call it standard. Maybe there isn't certain parameters that we all need to agree on and track. It's just finding the right cost benefit of which parameters we are going to define and track. But I don't have an answer as to how to shape that yet.
Yeah, no, but it's perfectly fine. And okay, let's go elsewhere. Let's have another thing to go for. But yes, so well, any original or surprises, things you would change in FinOps potentially based on that, what you've where you're coming from. You say, oh, I would love to have this. People going more deep onto this than what it is today, or something surprising that you've discovered that you say, it's not in FinOps, really?
As we were saying, I mean, to me, I'm really keen on this idea of standard cost at the moment. I think that we need to change the conversation, to change the understanding, reframe what we call cost. As I was saying a bit earlier, cost is not the same of a spend. And I feel, again, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like at the moment, we are not making that distinction. We say, oh yeah, the cost this month was however much because we didn't scale in time, or we miss out on some renewals of some commitments or whatever. I think we need to start digging a bit deeper into those variances analysis and really say, hey, my cost is this, or should have been this. All this other chunk that we spent over here because we were delaying renewing our commitments, or we were a bit generous with the size of the VM that we deploy. That's inefficiency. And truly start talking about inefficiencies. There shouldn't be a taboo, shouldn't be a blame culture. It's something that needs to be looked at as an opportunity for improvement. So if you know that you are not hitting the right rate on your cloud, well, then talk to your FinOps people. Why are they delayed? Maybe they are understaffed. Maybe there is no reason to. I mean, maybe the risk of having a commitment outweighs the benefits of that commitment. So there could be plenty of reasons. But yeah, those are the areas that I want to see more of. Say, well, our cost is our cost. Our inefficiencies is a different bucket, and let's own that.
Okay, so cost is a minimum viable spend for products to be of the quality that you need, or something like this. So I think that's my notes because I was writing badly. So now you've talked about that this is different than spend. So can you give a definition or elaborate a little more on the difference with spend? Because I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, you see your cloud bill, and that's your spend. You spend however amount your bill says that month. So even if you're amortizing, yeah.
Cost seems to be much more almost proactive. Is I should know my cost ahead of time. Yes. So when something arrives, that's why I go to a shop and a product costs something, but in the end, I'm going to spend the money to buy it. Does that make sense? Is that still correct? So the cost would be the price of that product that I see in a shop, for example, and the spend is what I do to buy that stuff and possibly more things.
So I guess that the best analogy I can give you, if you want to see it from the consumer side, is say you have two supermarkets next to each other, and you need to buy an apple. And supermarket A is £1 per apple, and the other one is 1.1 pound per apple. So from a consumer point of view, and just to try to make a clear example, the cost of the apple for you would be £1. You can choose, for whatever reason or circumstances, pay 1.1, but then you are accepting that you are paying more than you should. Okay. So from a cost accounting point of view, now going back to the producer, my cost is should be. So if I'm reselling that apple, my cost is £1. If I pay 1.1 because my supplier was unavailable, because there was no stock on, because whatever reason, if I pay more than I should have, that delta, that variance, that should go directly to the loss part of the P&L, let's say. Does that make it a bit more clear? So that's my distinction between should and spend.
Okay, so yes, I'm still debating with it. That's going to be something I'm going to investigate if I can. So, but yes, you said two things, and that I know because I've done some research, which was quite interesting, was rate and price. Because we have AWS provides you rate, but then there are people call them price and rate, and there are the other two, and you said the term rate. So what is your definition of rate and price? And I'll see the one I know, which might be wrong.
Well, I was using rate as a price per hour, right?
Okay. Yes.
And again, you could have a target. So FinOps team, that's another good example of how to look or think of cost and spend. So FinOps team could have a target of hitting whatever £3 per or $3 per hour for our EC2 instances. That comes because we have our savings plans, our reservations, and enterprise discount. That's our ideal rate, cost per hour. Things happen. We could not renew a reservation. We could change the instance families. So that cost could change. But the question is, should it change? Because if we miss out on renewal in time, that's someone who did something that is wrong, or not wrong, but you know what I mean. It's something to improve on. So how do we define that variance? So at the end of the day, if you have a very, 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 very strict budget, you will say, hey, you are over budget. You are paying more than you said you were going to pay. Why is that? Yeah, I didn't renew the reservation in time. Okay, fine. That's an inefficiency.
So in this case, I'm trying to connect in an equation, if you want, cost, spend, inefficiency. So my spend is my inefficiency plus my cost.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. Yes, and I'm going to give just for the auditors. I was trying to understand the difference between rate and price. Rate and price. And it seemed that rate, it is like, for example, it's when you have a long-term service and the price change during the service. So when you work with AWS, you work with them, and at any point they are allowed to change the price. And so what they're providing you is a rate, and the rate can change during the contract, while the price cannot change during the contract. I think that was the definition, which was quite interesting. And so you do have price, but rate means that, you are in the long term and price can change. And now we have that. So let me see. So spend equal cost plus inefficiencies. And cost is what I should have. What is not the normal? What I should have expected as cost? So what was the best available in the market? Knowing that in some markets this is changing on an hourly basis, that's probably you're going to be tons of efficiency, inefficiencies. Hello, welcome back, Stephen. Back. Yes.
I fortunately have 2 internet connections at home. I changed the internet connection to the one that is nowhere near my office, and we're flying. Sorry about that. I'm sure I've missed all the interesting stuff.
Well, we've done something which I'm going to repeat because I found extremely interesting, is that he was saying that spend is equal cost plus inefficiencies. And so,
I love that.
And so cost is what you are supposed to pay when you buy the right thing. And he was showing an example of an apple. Let's say if you have a supermarket saying it at £1 and the other one at, let's say, I'm going to be worse, £2, and it's the cost is £1 because you can have it at £1. If you decide to buy it at £2, you have £1 of inefficiency, or you need to explain it. You need to have a reason for that. It might be because, hey, it's green and I want it not.
Yeah, not only it could be the cost of luxury, the additional cost of luxury. Yeah,
exactly. So that's packed. Because if you look at just the raw materials of any dress, it's going to be the inefficiency in some form or way. But at the same time, you want to be dressed well. And that's why you have T-shirts like the FinOps Guys T-shirt. There is something on top. It has more value.
I don't don't know why you don't have one of those yet.
They did cost a lot, Frank, because we only ever get 2 printed, which means we don't get any benefit in mass production.
Nic, you will get, as you've been interviewed, you will get a sticker, and a shiny sticker because you've been interviewed. That's only
good.
But yeah, so yeah, I think we went, and so yeah, that's the interesting bit of this conversation. It went into places. It was hard to try to grasp, but I think at the end we're getting somewhere. But there is really something there for FinOps, in my opinion. There is all that specialty. We are all attached when we talk about finance, and we usually talk about the standard accounting, the one that is extremely regulated.
Yeah.
When we talk about, for example, executive, we usually talk about person with power that can just sponsor you. Most of the time, we don't ask them for decisions, which is quite interesting. And now what we are saying is, you should know your costs. And that, I think, for me, is the big message today is your costs, you should know them up front. Or you should have you should know your cost up front, and it is something that is worth investigating. And it's not it is rocket science in the cloud because it's full of variables, but at the same time, it is not something that is new. It's not something that we're inventing for the cloud. It's something that is done day in, day out by other industries.
And I think the other thing that is salient to Nic's point earlier was, at the moment, we're often ignoring people costs. And people costs are an important part of costs in this regard. And not super easy to bring up, and it's not something that we're seeing lots of people do, but really we need to be able to look at it, because we talk about those inefficiencies that make spend. We need to review those inefficiencies versus the cost of changing them, because sometimes inefficiencies are acceptable versus the cost of action, right? So I think they're all interesting points.
Yeah. And for me, the last but not least is, and as it's connected with the value of cloud, is you need to define, in the same way you need to know your cost, you also need to define what is the end, what are you trying to deliver by doing this IT initiative? What is the minimum viable thing? Because if everyone is used to super fast, they'll complain when it's not that fast. But if you've agreed that not that fast sometime will happen, that's fine.
Yeah. Minimal viable spend, I thought, was a really interesting one.
Yes.
Have I got that right, Nick? That's what you said?
Yeah.
Minimal viable spend to deliver a product. I've never heard someone say that before.
Yes.
I think that's super interesting.
Yes.
It's you can even think of that as a target, something to aim at. It's like, well,
Yes.
someone somewhere did a calculation as to what the infrastructure needs to be. You just need to put a price on that.
Do you ever do a measure of like the variance from that? Is that something
definitely.
that's done? Yeah.
Well,
okay.
And that we were talking a little bit about that with Frank a moment ago. But yes, one advantage of trying to implement this idea of cost or standard cost is when you come down to the variance, you decouple them into two. You have a variance because of volume. Say, well, I had more volume than I expected, so I had to scale up. So you can extrapolate how much your cost should be.
Yeah.
But then
you should make more money from that or whatever. That should deliver more value.
Definitely.
So that's an acceptable variance, right?
Yeah. Yes, it could be an acceptable variance, provided that it's within. So if your volume double and you double your capacity because it's a one-to-one match, happy days. You extrapolate, there is no variance. You are within that standard.
Okay.
If you over scale, then you have a variance.
So it's your standard cost, like a unit to a unit.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah.
But then you decouple that, and you can also have the variance on the price side. Again, back to responsibility. So maybe the scaling part or the technology part, that's something to discuss with engineers. When it comes to the rate, if you're paying more than you should per hour, then maybe that's a conversation to have with the FinOps team. Why are we paying more? Did you not renew a reservation? Did you whatever? Did not procure at the right time? Didn't get the right discount?
Does that get further confused by the fact that in the new world of savings plans, I say new, it's not that new. How many years ago? Is it like 4.5 years ago? Yeah. But in the world of savings plans, the discount moves. And so unless you're like 100% coverage all the time, which is problematic, you might gain a variance that month just because that discount's gone somewhere else that's new, and those kind of pieces.
That's where you explain those variants. That's where your commentary and your analysis come in and say, well, and I have that conversation. I've had that conversation with teams where we say, hey, or the first thing I see is that they are over budget. Then when you look properly into it, the hours were the same, and you can easily see the split between reservation and on-demand spend, how it fluctuates. So it's not a conversation to have with the team. It's like they didn't do anything wrong. The discount is not something that they manage, not something that I manage either, because it's AWS in this case. They decide how to apply that. So it's a variance. It's something to acknowledge.
I can tell you more. When we were Steve and I, we were in Strategic Blue. That was the work, and we were redoing all the AWS billing, complete reverse engineer, to be able to recharge people correctly as their account, as if they were individuals, while getting the discount at higher levels, so you could aggregate them together. That was really cool. One last thought, thinking that I have, which is really interesting from your approach, is if we assume then cost is something I need to know, it means that if I start, especially if I'm a startup, I've seen startups that did not know if they were really making money or not. And I think the idea of starting from if you start with the price your customer is going to pay, then you can start going back. You can start defining what the quality you want from the cost perspective is going to be, at least hopefully less than that price that you're charging the customer. But you also have like the OpenAI of this world. They know they're wasting there are tons of losing money, but they're strange. It's but I think that was very interesting. That is a very interesting discussion. I think
it's one of those ones that I'm going to have more questions like in the middle of the night that I'm going to be like, why didn't I think of that sooner?
Yes.
But that's fine because I've got your email address now. You're never getting away.
Can always follow up.
Yes,
exactly. Perfect.
Cool. So I think we've covered, at least we've covered it all for the amount of new information I can take at the moment and my page on my notebook. Pretty sure it's going to take me days and nights, as you say, to process this and see more things. We'll come back to you, Nic, definitely with questions. If we get questions from the auditors, we'll also send that your way. But yeah, thank you very much for participating in this and introducing something completely new to us. That is so cool. Last time we had already the debunk of the iron triangle, which was quite cool with Eric. Today we have, hey guys, you're totally not thinking about the right thing. You're using cost in the wrong way. Ooh, okay.
It's like the when Ali Whitman did cost saving and cost reduction being different things. It's that kind of light bulb moment, isn't it? Yeah, perfect.
Yes. So yeah. Thank you, Nic. Thank you, Stephen.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, listeners. And well, see you next time for November news. It will be.
Indeed.